Howdy, folks. You know, back in 2020, when we realized that we were not going to have a typical Lake Superior Big Top Chautauqua season, we started recording little snippets of performances of music, interviews, storytelling, going back into the archives and digging out some video of performances from years gone by. We put them all together in what we called Tiny Tent Shows. We did over 40 Tiny Tent Shows. And what you're about to see now is a rebroadcast, an encore airing, if you will, of a previously recorded Tiny Tent Show. Thank you so much for supporting us, and we look forward to seeing you back beneath the canvas. Howdy, folks, and welcome to Tiny Tent Show, episode number 18. Man, they are stacking up. Once again, we are happy to report that a contingent of the Blue Canvas Orchestra has been able to make its way to the actual Big Top. And what you're going to see tonight is a fresh air, socially distanced live show from the actual Lake Superior Big Top Chautauqua stage. One of the things I enjoy about them gathering up like this is, of course, we wish it was the full orchestra. Of course, we wish we were all packed in there together like we have so many times of old and hope we will in the future. But one of the things I like about even these very abbreviated get-togethers is you get to see the band members react to each other live. In particular, I like it when they'll crack each other up. Sometimes with a line they've done a million times, sometimes with an offhand comment, but you just get to see the natural flow of how it goes. And a couple of things I like about that. One is some of the jokes that they crack up to are jokes that are scripted, so you know they've done them 100 times. But it's still fun in the moment, and I can attest to that. And so I like to see that. And then, so sometimes they crack each other up, or sometimes I just enjoy seeing collective eye rolls. That's part of it too. That's part of knowing each other for a long, long time and knowing each other's jokes. Tonight's show contains numbers from a Nelson Ferris production that debuted at the Big Top in 2006. Wild Woods and Waters is part of a long and enduring legacy of Chautauqua shows that celebrate the precious natural world that surrounds the tent. The program features an auditory buffet, if you will, of many of Warren Nelson's favorite Woods and Waters songs, with a few additional offerings tonight from Tom Mitchell, from Dr. Third Eye, the mysterious Dr. Third Eye, and some Pete Seeger lyrics. As ever, we are grateful to you for tuning in, especially in these times. We're especially grateful to all of our sponsors, and tonight we will get to all of them, but first off, a special yahe to tonight's presenting sponsors, Wisconsin's Green Fire. A little later in the show, I'll visit with the executive director of Wisconsin's Green Fire, Fred Clark. For now, though, it is my pleasure to welcome you inside the blue and pearl gray canvas, standing strong until we can all gather together again. Here they are in the Big Top, the Blue Canvas Orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, visitors, lake sailors, land lubbers, Chautauqua comers, one and all. Before the waves of our shoal roll onto you, I beg you to hear me out. How many of you in these trying and complicated modern times have not said to yourselves, if only I could see to the bottom of things, if only I could find my way through the thick, dark problem of living, if only I could learn to think clearly, at will, or at all. If only I could come to know my true self and the true selves of those who surround me. Is there a citizen seated beneath this concupiscent canopy of cerulean and verdigris canvas, sands concrete, full of cornstaceous and empty air, who has not found yourselves flat white out, bored with your circumstance? Do you not long for the poet's talent to see into the heart of things, into the very essence? Is there anyone out there? Would you raise a hand? Ah, sir, would you raise a hand when I ask, do you not need the big, clear picture of the big view of life right now? Would you raise both hands? Not yet. Would you raise both hands when I ask, at this very hour, are you not all twice as ignorant and unaware as you should be? Oh, then you are in luck. For I bring you the secrets of the centuries, news of the greatest discovery in the history of human seeking. I bring you Dr. Third Eye's Lake Superior, Apostle Island's hand sanitizer. Fresh dipped at 12 fathoms. Always look for the bottle with the crystal clear cap. Guaranteed 0.05% sturgeon breath in each and every bottle. Plenty of it dabbed onto your hands and rubbed around will prevent disaster. Now you ask, Dr. Third Eye, for I am Dr. Felonius P. Third Eye, graduate summa swim cloudy from the Lake Superior Underwater University for the Malcontent. Well, aren't you going to ask me who, what, why, when, and wherefore?
Who, what, why, when, and wherefore?
Thank you very much. Well, I was diving one day in the cold, clear waters of Lake Superior when I began to realize I was adrift in the great lake of me life. And that's where heretofore I had been swimming in oceans of physical beauty. Now I was merely paddling in puddles of pulchritude. When suddenly an underwater spring found me, and lo, powers arrived, and a voice cried, "Go forth to the shores of the peninsula, where the lake effect has taken its dark toll on the lobes of the northern brain." I just so happen to have a petrified and slightly putrescent specimen of a northern brain, taken from a hapless wretch who died maskless because he believed that masks should only be worn by children on Halloween. A man who lived his life under a glacier of ignorance, and before that life melted away, he infected 100 people. And those 100 people infected 100 more, each. And so, as his life melted away, the lives of his children, his friends, and even his grandmother melted away. He lived out his life and left behind these veils of vapidness, these pits of pitifulness, these bumps of boredom, these sumps of stubbornness. Oh, if only he had lived to reach the shores of our discovery, as all of us have done. And what is that discovery, ladies and gentlemen? My colleagues, Scientists, doctors, biologists, virologists, and millions of people around the globe have all discovered that there is one simple thing to do. Wear the mask. Wear the mask. And do it with a happy heart. And now I must return to Lake Superior. By the shores of Gitchigumi, by the shining big sea's water, the most precious puddle on the planet. And know that 5 great steps were taken on this continent. Let's see if we can name them. Ontario, Erie, Huron, a slight stub of the toe at Lake St. Clair, Michigan, and the greatest of the great Great Lakes, Superior!
Welcome, folks, to this live recording here at Lake Superior, Big Top, Chautauqua.
Wisconsin is an island. The long Sheet Lake, Michigan, the Big Blue Bowl, Superior, the sweet St. Croix and the Mississippi to border the west, and even the bottom land is a sea of grass. Hi, folks, arrived in Kenosha, Wisconsin today. Found a nice beach on Lake Michigan, so stay a while. May leave Sunday, drive up through Racine, then on to Milwaukee, keep close to the shore. Go to Lake Geneva, we heard somebody say, on the steam launch Majestic, we took an afternoon. Hate to leave here with so much nothing to do, but friends on Lake Winnebago will take us sailing. All the way up we crossed the Fox River en route to Wisconsin's thumb. All morning we strolled the lovers' retreat along the Fox at Appleton. Door County it was made for the pleasures of a summer day. Have you ever seen the moonlight on Ellison Bay? On Wisconsin waters, on Wisconsin waters, on Wisconsin waters, roll and float my soul, roll and float my soul. Way up north to the great woods, we have our same cabin. Everything's fine. Wake up to the lake out the window. Through the screen, the green wind of pine. We love all the little back roads to the resorts all tucked away, where you can float a little time alone on your own private bay. I guess we better head home, but we'll take our Wisconsin time. Visit the valley of the St. Croix, follow the blue Mississippi line. Cut over to the Dells, Mr. Bennett took our photograph. We'll show you all the Kodaks we took when we get back on Wisconsin waters, on Wisconsin waters, on Wisconsin waters. Roll and float my soul, roll and float my soul.
Well, the next song we have for you here is called Autumn Fancy. It's one of the most popular songs that Warren Nelson has written. You may remember we've done it at Apple Fest so many times where it's so perfectly fitting.
The lake hills turn the color of a fox's coat. Easy in the breeze, the leaves go float. When the birch burn yellow and the maple red, the apples are ripe up overhead. When the fall is falling all around, get your wood up, quick winter coming to town. The way the Indian summer lays on the bay this fine October day. Blue in the big lake, blue in the sky, blue down the river all the time gone by. Green comes summer to a golden end, yellow is the eye of earth, my friend.
September winds are a sailor's charm. The new moon's up in the old moon's arms. Up the little river go the trout to spawn. You can see your breath rise in the dawn. Come early frost, the summer people go back to our old selves, broken slow. It's a harvest moon we dance around when the garden's in the jar. Ah, blue in the big lake, blue in the sky, blue down the river of a time gone by. Green come a summer to a golden end, yellow is the eye over earth, my friend.
Come gray November, the month of gales, Superior sings her shipwreck tales, and the waves that beat and pound the shore light you home fire now and close the door. When the geese are honking high in the V, and the boat slips as naked as a popple tree, by Thanksgiving Day and the herring run, be done with all you started. Blue in the big lake, blue in the sky, blue down the river all the time gone by. Green come a summer to a golden end, yellow is the eye of earth, my friend.
Northern wind at your window, stand and stare. Daylight windows of brown earth bare. Dig a lake, be still, freeze first on the bay. Was ever here now is here to stay. Go deep to sleep one cold clear night. Awake to a new world all winter white. Those who love the cold can lick the ice and toast the solstice. Ah, blue in the big lake, blue in the sky, blue down the river of a time gone by. Green come a summer to a golden end, yellow is the eye overlooked, my friend.
Cast on the color of a fox's coat, easy in the breeze of leaves go float. When the birds burn yellow and the maple red, and the apples are ripe up overhead. When the fall is falling all around, get your wood up quick, winter coming to town. The way the Indian summer lays on the bay this fine October day.
Folks, I'm happy to report that we have more live BCO to come. But right now we take a break to bring you a conservation conversation I had with Fred Clark, the executive director of our presenting sponsor this evening. Fred has a 30-year career tied to the outdoors, and yes, it is a 30-year career, not a 50-year career, as you'll see in the interview that we had a little fun with that. I turn to my notes now to read to you from his bio so you have a sense of his background. He has worked as a forest ecologist for the Wisconsin chapter of the Nature Conservancy, as a forester for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and as a consulting ecologist and forester. He has also previously operated a sawmill, forestry, and land restoration contracting business. Fred served 3 terms as a representative to the Wisconsin State Assembly between 2009 and 2014, representing Sauk and Columbia counties. And he has served on the Assembly Committees on Forestry and the Environment and the Committee on Natural Resources. Fred lives in Madison with his wife, Carrie. His son, Joe, is a graduate of the UW-Stevens Point College in the Conservation Law Enforcement program. He enjoys hunting, Great Lakes sailing, maple sugaring, and volunteering. I like that last one. The Big Top knows all about the value of volunteering. Here's my chat with Fred. Well, hello, Fred.
Michael,
It's,
honored to be on your show.
oh, man, no, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be about anywhere at this point. And honestly, since I don't mind breaking the fourth wall, I am looking out. I'm in a little room over my garage. I'm looking out over the back 40, and it's not a bad place to be at this point. And I would also like to compliment you on coming to us live from the forest.
Yeah, and I'm here in my home on the west side of Madison, on my office / season room, and I'm looking out on a firewood pile. But behind me, I've got a photo of one of our great wild places here in the Lake States, and I thought your viewers might appreciate that today.
It's perfect. It matches the theme of the show, you bet. Do you get a chance to burn a lot of firewood in Madison?
We do. Not like when I lived in a farm in Baraboo, where I literally would back the trailer up to the back door every couple of weeks and just start chucking it in. But
That's
we
great.
are able to enjoy fires in the evening. Yeah.
That this is not supposed to be the Mike and Fred reminiscence hour, but you just mentioning backing the trailer up and chunking wood. Both of my daughters were raised hauling wood in, up the deck and into the living room and in a pile beside the wood stove. And then I have memories. I can't say fond memories, just memories of my father. We used so much wood that most of it was stacked outside, but we'd keep it as much in the basement as we could. And he actually rebuilt one of the basement windows and put a wood chute in it. So you'd actually just chunk wood and it would slide down into the basement. So you knew it was your day off. You were in the house hearing the sound of all that wood banging on the wood chute. Although you figured every time you heard a thump, you knew you were going to have to go stack that at some point.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, tell us a little bit. We mentioned the theme that you're using in your background, which is perfect for the show, the Wild Woods and Waters show. Talk a little bit about why you're here and the organization that you're representing.
Sure. Wisconsin's Green Fire is an organization really dedicated to the role of science in conservation. Our mission is really to carry the light of science and research and evidence into the art of conserving natural resources. And Green Fire members live all over the state. We include a large number of conservation professionals, ranging from air quality experts and water quality experts to some of the state's and the region's best biologists in wildlife ecology and forestry and points in between. And what we're really trying to do is maintain and strengthen the long-standing Wisconsin tradition of being a leader in conservation and thoughtful sustaining and preserving our natural resources for all of our benefits. It's a great organization to run, and really an honor to work with all the folks involved in it.
I think the word that jumped out to me, in everything you just said, and that piques my interest, is the word thoughtful. It's a struggle sometimes to be thoughtful in this day and age. Just speak to me a little bit about what you mean by that word and the importance of that word.
Well, first of all, the decisions around how we care for water or land or forests or our fisheries are never easy. There are interests and benefits and stakeholders, and to some extent winners and losers, sometimes winners all around if we make the right decisions. But in order to get there, we have to understand both the environmental aspects of decisions as well as the social and economic aspects. How does this stuff affect people? How can we sustain the bounty of the incredible resources in land and water that we have in this state so that next generations can benefit? So I think the thoughtful approach requires thinking beyond our own immediate needs or our own personal interests to how we can make decisions that are really best for all. And that's the public trust that both the state is committed to do by statute and by our Constitution, and that I think is a matter of moral obligation we all ought to try to do.
You have a 50-year career in the outdoors, correct?
Not 50. I'll go with 30.
You know why I said 50? Because I don't have my reading glasses. I snuck a peek over there and thought, it seems young to have a 50-year career, but let's go with it. But you're right, it's a 30-year career under further review.
Still working, though. Yeah.
Like I said, these are unvarnished. We like to let people see what they have in here. But yeah, speak to me about that 30-year career, and I'll frame it just a little bit. I don't want to do all the talking, but I'm thinking about what you said about that thoughtful relationship, and even that the stakeholders comment is really important. I come from loggers, but I also come from people who, my father who logged the same patch of land for 40 years. So now it's pretty clear he didn't just cut them all. And the other part of so part of me is I like it when someone recognizes that there's more than one dimension to this particular discussion. And then the other thing I just wonder about when we see the changes in hunting, the changes in the demographics, that there's some of us that came up with a certain body of environmental knowledge, whether we knew it or not.
Yeah.
How that has changed. Maybe, again, I'll stop talking and just let you kind of weave those observations into your 30-year career.
Sure. Well, so in my own work, I think the mission that I've kind of been called to, maybe that only becomes apparent when you look back on life, but has been to work in the woods and to try to bring together the sort of vision for forests that benefit everybody. So I've worked as a logger myself. I've run a logging contracting groups. I've also worked as an ecologist for conservation groups to try to understand the wildlife and all the biological richness in our forests. And most of my career, I've been pushing people from both those ends of the spectrum toward the middle to understand that we can have a productive forest resource and we can also protect and enhance the biodiversity and the ecological richness that many people, that we all benefit from. And there are examples of other people who have done that work in water and in wildlife and in fisheries. And that is really part of the art of conservation. The concepts that Aldo Leopold helped really pioneer as an international thought leader in conservation. Today, I think those traditions can serve us well, and they are serving us well as we face new challenges. The threats from climate change, we understand are real, they're in front of us, they're urgent. The impacts that we're seeing from contaminated water, both in our cities and in our rural areas, from a variety of problems, those are getting worse. And now in the face of a global pandemic, outdoor spaces actually have a new role, or maybe a more appreciated role, for a safe place for people to recreate and get outdoors. So I think the traditions that we've developed in this state and other places around thoughtful conservation are needed now more than ever to help address these new challenges.
I think as a way of wrapping up then, talk a little bit about, I love to tell people about the Big Top.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always point out is the reason that I can brag that place up is that I was going there as a paying customer long before I ever put foot on the stage. And I just remember my first visit up there and marveling at the setting and the view and all of those. Nature is just an essential element of that place.
Yeah.
And so maybe just speak a little bit to your experience with it and how it ties into this theme.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I moved to Wisconsin in 1989, and I'm pretty sure my first visit to the Big Top was 1991. So going on almost 30 years now. And what I remember most about that program, in addition to all the familiar characters, was Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys were the musical show that night. And that was still near the end of Bill's career, but I'll always remember that one of his bandmates in a quiet moment said into the microphone, "Well, it sure is pretty up here, all this water and all." And that night just really stuck with me and cemented the Big Top as a touch point for Wisconsin in my mind.
Well, that's a perfect moment. I love those small moments like that. Well, thank you so much. And is there anything that you want to say going out here about Wisconsin's Green Fire?
No, you can find us on the website at www.wigreenfire.org. We appreciate the work of the Big Top and your work in really helping elevate conservation and as one of the critical themes in our Wisconsin cultural traditions. So glad to be here with you today, Michael, and thanks for all you do.
You bet. Same to you. Thanks for everything. See you down the road.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Fred Clark, folks. And thanks to Wisconsin's Green Fire for being our presenting sponsor this evening. You can visit them and learn more about their organization at wigreenfire.org. And now, back to the fresh air, canvas-draped sounds of the Blue Canvas Orchestra.
1, 2, 3.
Well, in the year 1976, buffalo became very important because it was the nation's bicentennial.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's going to leave a mark.
And this is a song about them. It's also a song about free range that Warren Nelson wrote. This was originally written for the Wild Woods and Waters show, and the first show that I was ever in here at the tent with the Blue Canvas Orchestra, and I got to sing this song. It's called Yo-Ho Buffalo. Well, into the western wind, up the Missouri, Jefferson sent us to the ocean.
Over the Rocky Mountains.
And the side of the Great Divide, the shore grass was black with the backs of the buffalo.
Green room to run, green room to run.
Some say 60 million ran in the middle country, with gangs of wolves and coyotes following the grizzlies. Oh, yo-ho, buffalo. My name is Yo-ho, buffalo. Now the buffalo chews its cud, wallows in the mud, rubs its winter coat off on the willows.
Into the western wind up the Missouri.
In the running season we heard the herds miles away, thundering towards the river.
Big Muddy and clears with Yellowstone.
In the book of the Sioux it is written that they've gone in the earth to hide. Nothing can bring them out again but the people dancing. Oh, yo-ho, buffalo. My name is Yo-Ho, buffalo. Now the USA is just like the buffalo. Got a fence around the old home and the wandering grounds.
So little green, green room to run.
And all the green new children want to run out west, looking for the wild, high, open spaces.
Country of imagination.
Far too precious little of the wild land left is set aside and promised as forever wilderness. Oh, yo-ho, buffalo. My name is Yo-Ho, buffalo. Yeah, yo-ho, buffalo. My name is Yo-Ho, buffalo.
Nice job, Tom.
Thanks, Hill.
This next song we're going to do is from a show called Wild River, which celebrated the 20th anniversary of the St. Croix River's designation as a National Wild and Scenic Riverway. I got to ride with Warren Nelson in a canoe for 5 days down the St. Croix River while he was writing that show. And afterwards he said, "I know that I will never marry Philip Anich."
Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Once upon the shallow shifting waterway, in the clang, bang, and racket of a time long gone, in the flush old northern steamboat days, the St. Croix was the main traveled road. Though nothing will ever compare with the Mississippi parade, once it was payday in the St. Croix trade, all the way up to St. Croix Falls, all the way down to the Prescott Levee. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Running the St. Croix trade. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heydays. Now she's laying at that Stillwater levee. Apply for freight or passage on shore. Keep this ticket inside a table and return to the gangway. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, you can now step on board. Excursion bound for Red Wing, cabin passage to Dubuque. Are you bound for the day to St. Paul? Flags are flying, blast, jackstaffs on the bar. Paddle wheel kicking up her heels of Lake St. Croix. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Running the St. Croix trade. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heyday. When the ice goes out in April, look down river. Any hour now you'll hear that whistle blow and blast. She's run past the catfish bar at Afton. She's crossing now and doing here at noon. But she's just a big card to the house and a wedding cake on top, they say. 3 trips down, you're hooked forever. You'll never stop pining for the feel of the wheel. What goes up must come down, stop at every river town. Way back when along the old St. Croix. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Running the St. Croix trade. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heyday. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Running the St. Croix trade. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heydays. All the steamboats, Behnen days are history. All go down river to the mystery below. There are 2 boats you should know of on the St. Croix, both built in the Osceola boat yards. The little packet GB Nap ran here for 20 years, where the old man himself is so turning in the gears. 2 longs, 3 shorts of the
whistle.
It's a Nelly Kent.
Come and carry you.
When I die, don't take me to heaven on a steamboat. I hear there's no snags or sandbars up there. I'd rather go full steam towards Hell's Landing, just to see if we could get there on time. Let the devil take a ride on a steamboat. Well, he'll sweeten up with his finger on the wheel. When the red haws on the islands hang over the river in the fall, and the moon lays its silver on the shoals. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river. Running the St. Croix train. Up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river, up and down the river.
Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heydays. Up and down the river in the dreamboat, steamboat heydays. Well, from our show, River Pants, here's a fishing song that is several hundred years old and is still relevant today.
Man's life is but vain, for 'tis subject to pain and sorrow, and short as a bubble. 'Tis a hodgepodge of business and money and care and money and trouble. But we'll take no care when the weather proves fair, nor will we vex now though it rain. We'll banish all sorrow and sing till tomorrow, and angle again.
What's that, Dad? You want me to fish this run here? Try to get a good float across that riffle by that elm log? All right. You're going to fish downstream and back? Okay, good luck. I watched that man disappear around a bend in this Willow River all the time I was growing up. And everything remains inside. The cool Sunday after church water, the hot glare outside the shadows under the second bridge, the slip of a wader's shoe, and the crunch of gravel on the narrows between the river and the race. 100 summers ago, boys walked their cows out from the family little farms and from the village of Hudson to let the cows graze all day while they swam and fished and threw rocks and did all the things children will do when they are given the gift of freedom with responsibility. Now, history asks us to look at what lies above the surface. My dad taught me to imagine what is underneath. And on this run here, under that riffle, just this side of that elm log, are brook trout, resting from their ceaseless labor of feeding and staying upright in the flow. The Willow's always been trout water. When the Lakota and Ojibwa people struggled with each other along these banks, they took trout from the river. And long before them, the mound builders followed the game trails down from the sacred bluffs above the St. Croix to take trout with root nets and spears. The Willow begins in tangled brush and mystery, just a little east of Deer Park. And then it moves quietly along through meadows and fields, past cottonwoods and oaks and the secret life of cows. It slips past the old lemonade farm and down into Burkhart, where Christian built his first flour mill. Passes the ruins of the High Falls Dam and then becomes a little lake behind the restored Middle Dam. It spills over the spillway and it becomes solitude without loneliness. The river divides into two, the main and the race. The main river passes under the second bridge, and the race slips through the first bridge past Fred Nord's farm, where the Greens, the first family to settle on the Willow, homesteaded. You can still see the silo that Fred worked so hard to put up. He was a happy man. They said that he could work hard all day and then come through the door laughing. Well, the river reunites again just above the swinging bridge. And then it slips under the brush dam. And then, like a lot of us in middle age and when we're approaching the end, it begins to spread out and becomes Lake Malilu, the pond. And then it's on to the last dam at the mouth of the St. Croix there and into that river, and that's that. Short and sweet. From the brush dam to a little ways past the middle dam are trout waters. Very few trout below and almost none above. Trout waters. Mrs. Larson told the story of coming out from her cottage one day to get a pan of water to clean with, and when she dipped it into the river and pulled it up, a legal-sized brook trout lay in it. Now, if you love to fish, especially here on the Willow, you need to thank Frank Wade. Frank was a Civil War soldier and a logger, and he loved to fish the Willow until one day in 1896, some men came over from Minnesota, bought up 200 acres, fenced off the river to create the exclusive Minnesota Club so that only they could fish. Well, this angered a lot of people. But Frank decided to do something about it. On a splendid day in June, he rode upriver to fish. He took with him a sandwich and a box of dynamite. Now, he took 10 trout by line, and when he came to a fence or obstruction erected by the club, he blew it up. Frank got his wish, and his case went all the way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Now, the Minnesota Club lawyer argued some uppity British law about tidal waters and rights of privilege and property. But this was the United States of America and the progressive state of Wisconsin. And the court ruled for Frank. It wrote, no one can own the particles of water that flow in a river, just as nobody can own the air that moves above it. And neither are fish property, just as the birds in the air are not. And so the Willow was declared forever public and free to fish. To fish. A noun becomes a verb, becomes a noun. Nobody ever goes out into the woods to deer. The great jurist and writer and trout fisherman Robert Trevor wrote, "We fish to get out of town, to escape doing the things we hate. It's a small act of rebellion and an endless source of delight." And it's not that fishing is so terribly important, it's just that all the other concerns in life are equally unimportant. And it gives us the golden chance not to think at all. Oh, he's good. Oh, I got unstuck. What's that, Dad? Oh, well, I just got unsnared there. Did I catch anything? Well, I made a few good casts. I watched that man reappear around a bend in the river most of my life. The poet Rilke wrote, "All fish are mute," one used to think. But who knows? Maybe there's a place where, at last, without them, we may be able to speak in the language of fish.
Here's an old 15th century German hymn, I believe, called Es ist ein Rose. New lyrics by Pete Seeger.
Of time and rivers flowing, the seasons make the song, and we who live beside her still try to sing along of rivers, fish, and men. The seasons still are coming when she'll run clear again. So many homeless sailors, so many winds that blow. I asked the half-blind scholars which way the currents flow. So cast your nets below, and the gods of the moving waters will tell us all they know. The circle of the planets, the circle of the moon, the circle of the atoms, all play a marching tune, and we who would join in can stand aside no longer. Now let us all join in.
Well, folks, that's our Tiny Tent Show for tonight. So good to see the bunch playing live, even at a friendly distance. In these times, more than ever, as I keep saying, we sure do appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate your support. We're all working toward that day when we can gather up again. We also want to, of course, especially thank our sponsors. Tonight's presenting sponsor, Wisconsin's Green Fire, wigreenfire.org. Jim and Joy Perry, still no relation. Brownstone Pharmacy, Myra Einert, Memorial Medical Center, Peggy and Sheldon Goldberg, Anonymous Friends from Sedona, Arizona, Sandy and Dick Olson, Ehlers and Pierce, CPAs, Midland Services, Incorporated. And now the time has come not to bid you adieu, not to say goodbye, but rather to do as we do where I'm from. Say, well, I suppose. Forward.